Hey, Green Theory, welcome back. What exactly are plant-based milks? Well, basically there's some kind of plant materials, sometimes cooked, that's been blended with water and turns out to resemble dairy milk in some kind of capacity and intends to replace it for daily drinking or recipes. The industry of plant-based milks has exploded in the last few years, growing at a rate around 14% per year as of 2022, and you've probably seen numerous brands lining the shelves of the grocery stores near you. Today, I'm going to be ranking the most popular among them, at least the ones that I can find near me. Luckily, I'm in a neighborhood that is absolutely overpopulated with grocery stores, so I was able to piece together 9 different options to try for you today. I'll be ranking them in the following 3 categories: sustainability, accessibility, and taste. While all of these milks share an environmental impact that is way less than conventional dairy milk, I still think it's interesting to compare and contrast them as it may affect the future of your purchases. Starting out simple here, soy milk has been around since its invention in China several thousand years ago, but it only became known to Western cultures around the 1980s. It does top the carbon emission of the plant-based milks that I looked at today, but it's middling in both land and water use, landing it as one of the top 3 least sustainable plant-based milks. That said, it's a little bit better researched than the average milk on here, so perhaps the more comprehensive studies have led to it having a worse reputation. In terms of accessibility, I would give this 10 out of 10. It was available in all the stores that I checked. It was very cheap, and there were sometimes different flavors and brands available for variety. So that said, we're going to go on to the taste test of the soy milk. It does kind of have a artificial sweetener smell to it. Yeah, it's got a great texture. Very much like regular milk. You definitely taste it as artificial sweetener. There is kind of a chalkiness to it, much the same that you would get from a standard dairy milk. Overall, I think it's a great replacement. I'm sure it comes in multiple flavors as well. Next up, we have almond milk. It's been around since at least the late... Next up, we have almond milk. It's been around in America since at least the late 19th century, popular among early vegan and vegetarian communities. By far, it is the biggest water consumer on our list, and more importantly, the water is all coming from irrigation rather than rainfall like some of the other milks on our list. Since such a huge portion of almonds are grown in California and they're suffering from extensive droughts over the last several decades, they use even more water than dairy milk sometimes, and though the emissions are much lower. In fact, almond trees are actually known for their carbon sequestering abilities. In terms of accessibility, again, this is a 10 out of 10. It was available in all the different stores, it was very cheap, and it sometimes would have multiple flavors or brands available. Now onto the taste test. It does smell faintly of almonds. You get that nutty kind of smell. It does taste like candied almonds or honey roasted almonds or anything like that. You get the sweetness from whatever sugar is in here or sweetener, and then the obvious almond flavor on top of that. I really like it. Again, the texture is amazing. It's very milk-like. Yeah, I would buy and use this, especially if you were an almond fan. Alright, up next we have oat milk. From the research that I saw, I estimated that oat milk sits around the middle of the pack in all the metrics that we looked at today when it comes to sustainability. It was created by a Swedish food scientist in the 1990s when he was looking at lactose intolerance. This one was another slam dunk in terms of accessibility. It was available in all the grocery stores that I went to and sometimes had a couple different brand options, and it was always cheap. One thing I'll point out, compared to all the other milks, it kind of has a grayish color to it. So if the appearance of your milk matters, be advised. I will say I'm a huge fan of oats in general, and I drink oat milk regularly. I think it's a great product, so I imagine I'm gonna like this, but it smells very much of raw oats. So here we go. Yeah, that's really awesome. So it is not quite as sweet as the almond and the soy milk, which were a little bit sweeter. I think maybe this one doesn't have as much sugar added to it. It does have kind of a watery flavor, if that makes sense. Obviously the oat flavor is there as well. The biggest difference is this one is really creamy, like almost like a whole milk would be. It's got kind of a way that it coats your mouth, similar to like a high-fat milk. So that's really great. That's why they use it in coffee beverages and stuff. It's great at creaming up drinks and other situations like that. But yeah, that's like an all-time favorite of mine. That's got to be a 9 or a 10. Here we have Cashew Milk. This one is another middle of the pack in terms of sustainability metrics. I will note that even though it does have a relatively high water footprint, much of that water comes from the natural environment through rainfall. This is another nut from a tree, obviously, like the almond, but they grow in tropical environments, and there's a lot more rainwater there than there is in California. So that difference from the graph is really even more stark than it first appears. In terms of accessibility, I'm going to give it a 7. 4 out of the 5 locations I went to did have cashew milks. It was middling in price. There was only one variety available. It was the same brand, and it's the unsweetened variety. I will say that it doesn't smell like much. I get a slight hint of cashew if I really deeply inhale, but this is the least smelly of the milk so far. Let's give it a try. Wow, it's so much sweeter than I thought it would be. I guess I forgot that cashews are a pretty sweet nut, but I can't believe this doesn't have sugar added to it. I'm actually gonna go look at the milk carton right now. Yeah, so I went and got the carton. Apparently it's 0 grams of sugar. This one is definitely the sweetest that I've had, so I'm surprised that it's unsweet. I assume that means that there's no artificial sweeteners added as well. Honestly, it's a little bit sweeter than I would probably go for my daily milk that I would use, but if you're looking for a healthy, sweeter milk, maybe cashew milk is right for you. Next up, we have rice milk. It is one of the least sustainable milks on our list today. It's runner-up in both the emissions and the water use chart, as you can see here. It's suspected to have originated in the early 20th century and started its mass production out of California. In terms of accessibility, I'm only gonna rank it a 3 out of 10. Only one of the 5 locations that I went to had any. It was cheap, but there was only one brand. Let's give it a taste though. This is the first milk on the list that I have smelled. I literally cannot smell anything at all. Even in my special snifter glass for smelling. Let's taste it. It's a pretty watery milk. It definitely evokes some of that rice flavor. If you've ever had like a dessert that has rice in it with some kind of sweetness in it, like a sticky rice, some of that flavor is in here. So if you really like that, I would try it out. It's reasonably creamy, but also a little watery. I would say kind of middling in taste. Good level of sweetness though. Reminds me a lot of dairy milk in the sweetness. Okay, next up we have coconut milk. Potentially the largest land user of milks, although this was kind of hard to calculate. I calculated it on my own, and but finding verifiable data to back that up, kind of shaky. Not to mention the various of coconut tree varieties and growing styles, agricultural practices, that kind of thing. I will point out that trees will keep yielding for decades, sometimes 25 years after starting, so more of a permanent agriculture solution than some of these grains, legumes, seeds that are on this list, so something to consider there. Accessibility, I'll give it a 9. It was at all the locations, it was cheap, but there was never more than one variety available, so just one small ding there. The smell is very coconut, just like a perfume would be, like very beachy vibe to it. Let's give it a taste. Yeah, it tastes just like it smells. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the coconut flavor in general, especially if it's like a prevailing flavor. It's got a pretty silky texture, creamy, but also watery. I think the meat is blended with coconut water, and that's how you get coconut milk, and it very much tastes like that. Yeah, definitely not my favorite, but I'm pleasantly surprised by the texture, and the level of sweetness is good in this variety. All right, here we have Pea Milk. It is relatively new on the scene, only having been introduced by the brand Ripple to Whole Foods in 2015. Really great sustainability metrics across the board, not to mention above average protein for a plant-based milk, it being made from peas. Yeah, really remarkable, you can see on the graphs here. So I'm very excited to try it. I will say the smell is a little weird. It smells like a peanut butter almost somehow. And it's got kind of a yellowish, mostly white, but maybe a tinge of yellow color to it. Accessibility wise, I would give it a 5. It was available, this one brand, in 3 out of 5 stores that I went to. Definitely on the more expensive side for the milks, and as I said, only one brand. Let's see how it tastes. Yeah. That's not awesome. It does taste like peas, and unfortunately. It's got kind of like a freezer burned pea flavor to it almost. The smell is like very much evoking peanut butter for me for some reason. But then the taste, you kind of get that, like if you've ever had like a split pea soup, or there's this certain pea flavor that is recognizable in the background here. It's not very sweet. It is really silky and creamy, but I kind of wish it wasn't for some reason. That with the flavor and the way that it coats my mouth, I'm not enjoying so much. Not for me. All right, here we've got banana milk. I'm super excited about this one. Banana milk in general came about in the 1970s as a nutritional supplement in Korea. It's slowly spread around the world since then and has become a niche milk replacement. Since the tropical climate where bananas tend to thrive is so conducive to them, and they really are prolific there, they don't really need much input, water, land, greenhouse gas emissions. From what I was able to figure out, it has a very small environmental impact. That said, it's a rarer milk with less research, so maybe there's more stuff to uncover there. Not to mention that bananas are known for their pesticide and fungicide use, so not to say that they're totally clean by any means. Accessibility, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. 3 out of the 5 locations had it. It's a little bit more of an expensive product. There's only one brand that I saw. I got the normal original flavor, but there were a couple different flavors at one of the markets that I went to. So let's see how it tastes. Like I said, it smells like banana bread. I love bananas. I love the smell, especially when they're in a baked good. I think they've added some cinnamon to this as well. So very excited to taste this. Interesting. I went in expecting it to taste like banana bread too, and it doesn't. It's pretty good. The texture is very silky, which is great. The color is pretty dark, so again, if you don't like a darker milk, probably not one for you. The cinnamon, the banana come through in the flavor as well, but to be honest, the smell kind of hyped it up for me. Yeah, kind of an underwhelming flavor overall, I'd say. Probably good to pair with a cereal or something. All right, last but not least, we have flax milk. This is one of our healthiest milks again. Flax is considered a superfood, so there's a lot of nutrition, micronutrients, and protein in this milk again, which is great. This is also one of the sustainability superstars, super low on all the graphs as you can see here. This milk is relatively new as well. Came out around 2012 as a plant-based milk alternative for those with allergens for some of the other common types like soy or almond. Accessibility, I was pleasantly surprised that it was more available than I thought it would be. I thought it would be super hard to find this, but I can only give it a 4 out of 10. It was more expensive and there was only one brand at any location, though it was available at 3 out of 5 locations that I shopped at. With that, I'm going to give it a taste. It kind of has that peanut smell like I was getting from the pea milk before. Yeah, like a little bit of a peanut butter smell to it. A little bit yellow, but looks pretty much like milk. This one is unsweetened. Yeah, there is no sweetness to this at all. It would be easy to add your own sweetener, but not necessarily something that people want to do after they buy a prepared product from the store. The texture is great, really coats your mouth, kind of like a rich milk would, but just watery and flat in terms of flavor. Nothing really to taste in here. It's basically just milk texture and appearance without any flavor. And then the slight peanut butter smell. So, interesting. Okay, there you have it. This is the final ranking that I have for all these plant-based milks based on their sustainability, accessibility, and taste. I hope you learned something today. I hope you get out and try a weird milk this week, and as always, make good choices.